die officiële titel.
Moreno?
That's smart.
No questions. Thanks, guys.
Yes, yeah.
Last part of it's fine, guys. Afternoon, Jaco, afternoon, Thomas. Jaco, just regarding officiating this week, obviously there was some good calls, but anything you felt that against the team maybe that could have gone the other way, that could have been addressed this week for the side?
I looked. First of all, we as the Springboks think that Holly and the whole team that's here is really good referees, and they have a great work ethic. It's people that you can prepare with in games and people you can give feedback to, and you get feedback from them. So it's something World Rugby encourages at a professional level. So on this weekend, we certainly have one or two questions that we've raised in terms of there's a key focus area sent out to teams before competitions or before windows, and obviously we have to feel each other out in the beginning to see if we understand that correctly, whether the referees understood it correctly. So we have alignment exercise, the same as the players do in that room this morning and yesterday did, to align ourselves with the plan and the execution of the plan. So that's in our process, and we respect the referees that they have to go through their game reviews, and we are sure they will give us honest feedback, and it'll put us all in a better position going into this weekend who needs to adjust.
Jaco, just specifically around breakdown, is there anything, when you're speaking about what you just said, is there anything specific around breakdown that you need to tidy up or adapt to?
Yeah, look, in rugby, when you are dominant, when you carry dominant, or when you tackle dominant, then obviously the little bit of grey sits with you. So on the Springbok side, we need to fix that up and make sure that we are showing the referee a picture that's easier to referee and not allow for too much interpretation or management. So and on our side, that's a fix. Then yes, we have one or two questions. The Italian team had a clear plan and they were really well coached, but we need to understand whether we have to adjust one or two things. And if we have to, we will. If the referees understand after this game, we can keep to what we are doing, then that's great. But it's a positive process. This is not bagging anyone. This is it's an environment where we all continuously learn from each other to get a better product.
So you think it's going to be a trend? Is that why you also want to look at too?
Depending on the feedback, whether they believe this is we should adjust as a Springboks, or whether the referee team will adjust on the weekend.
Jaco, you aren't being specific though, because I sense an unhappiness, but you're not really telling us what the unhappiness is about.
No, I don't think it's unhappiness. I think it's a question of learning. We've got to make sure that we are best adjusted to the referees. There's a key focus area, as I said, that they send out with best practices, and therefore we need to know whether we train and understand it correctly.
So what is it? What is it that you ask?
When there's more numbers in the breakdown, whether if the referee sees an infringement, whether the referee asks the player to stop doing that, or whether the referee referees that infringement, or whether it is actually an infringement.
Jaco, this season has been a season of various law changes throughout the entire world. Is there one maybe or two laws that you found that the team maybe still struggles with, even with all the URC action that they've had, even in the Premiership? Is there one maybe two laws that you find that they still maybe struggle with, particularly when it comes to having to retreat back after a kick is done, those types of things?
Well, the players have had ample time to adjust, so we have got no excuse around that. By the way, we get to give input in the process of changing law. That process has closed down now. We have the window where they get the input, and then we're now in execution phase. So South Africa, the Springboks and SA Rugby supports the law changes 100%, because they're all aimed at making the game safer or making the game a better spectacle. But we can't have a great spectacle without making the game safer. And the one you referred to, for instance, with the kicking game, is to create more space for the typical Cheslins of the world, the Damien Willemses. So those laws we support. I don't think the players find it hard to adjust. It's when you're under pressure, where you have less time, you have to make a decision and you're not clearly on side, or you panic a little, and that's the thing. So the laws are pretty clear. It's pressure that make you infringe.
I guess that's why I'm asking the question, because then there's going to be a time when it comes down to the very fine margins where something needs to be second nature. That's why I'm asking that question of, is there still maybe a few things that need to be worked on where things will then become second nature now? People don't have to think about it when they're under pressure.
Yeah, if you're dominant, again, rugby is the old game of rugby. If you're dominant in contact, if you're dominant in the air, if you're dominant in the scrum, then it's easier to adjust. So that's the main thing for the team, to find a way to be dominant in more situations.
questions. Guys, we've got another 4 minutes for the bonus.
Just on the maul, obviously a lot of people talk about that more try guys conceded. Was that more of a execution thing on defense, or is there something you see there in the laws maybe tweak or adjust to?
No, I don't think it's a law thing. I think the specialist here of defending mauls and setting mauls sit right next to me. But it was a really good maul by Italy, and it was poorly defended by us. The Springboks pride themselves in not allowing that rips into ourselves, so that is a big negative for us.
Sorry, Thomas, do you mind commenting?
No, I think if you look at that maul, it's definitely a very modern way of mauling. It's not one person or not a whole package going over the line. I think it's very much evolving as the maul goes on. Different people handling the ball, the more kind of snaking, for lack of a better word, left and right, and then evolving towards the try line. Like I said, we definitely pride ourselves in stopping more, and that is definitely a negative that we addressed this morning, and that we'll rectify during the week.
Thomas, I mean, Italy, one must give them credit for the desire that they showed. When I look at it, it was interesting also to look back on the game, do a bit of a review. But they really came hard, and it looks like they did a lot of homework, for example, on your lineouts and things like that, also contesting. Is there an element of it, and one still has to recognize that you won the game, the guys won the game, and they won it comfortably. But is there kind of a bit of a, maybe, I don't know whether the word wake-up call is too harsh, but not thinking, you're playing in a young team, and you kind of should win this game, you should go home comfortably. And yet you guys were a little bit, I know you weren't involved, but the guys were out of their comfort zone. Is there a wake-up call element about it?
I wouldn't say wake-up call, but I would say we definitely set very high standards for ourselves when it comes to preparing for the match, and then also in the match itself. And training-wise, we all try and lift each other up. We all try and be better week in and week out. And so we compare ourselves to ourselves. So when we review the game, we review it in the sense that were we better than the week before? And in certain aspects, we have to look ourselves in the mirror and say we weren't. But there's definitely not a lack of intensity at training or a lack of preparation. This group knows what needs to be done, and we try and do that. So credit to the Italians. They are a proud nation. They play very good rugby. So they were very good on the weekend.
You guys also, it's an interesting situation with guys coming from all over the show and so on. But how do you guys experience it at training? Where you have, like you are in IFL conditions, for example, and now a lot of the guys aren't used to that anymore. Is that affecting you guys in a way?
Most of the camps are done at IFL, so I mean we try and nullify that as much as we can. But we based on our conditioning and what Andy prescribes during the week, we definitely get enough load and work done at altitude for that not to be as big as an effect as someone who just rocks up there on a Saturday and starts playing. So we get enough preparation for that not to be an issue.
Last vlogger question over there, and then vloggers off, and then we'll go over there.
Jaco, in Rassi's own words, post-game on Saturday, considering it was a frustrating performance, what is, from a coach's point of view, should I say, what does a mental reset look like to get the players ready to really blow the Italians over in Gqeberha on Saturday?
Look, it's first understanding the performance. Is where did the plan, or where was the plan not good enough? Where was, as coaches, first of all, the coaches, was the plan good enough? And then two, that the players in the plan executed well enough. So if you have that great understanding there, where is that performance gap, I think then you can address from today onwards, how do you fix that? But we're playing a solid, really well coached team, so I don't think people should expect any team to just walk over them.